the head hillbillies are making their rounds. Small town whispers loud and clear. The sheriff shot the judge in his chambers chair.
Sheriff got a secret he won't keep. Judge shot dead in his disbelief. A lot of people have some stories to tell. Dark pass away, get the sound of a shotgun shell.
All the secrets spill on down. Voices loud in this old town. From the courthouse to the ground. Rumors fly and they can't be bound.
Neighbors hide behind their blinds. Whisper tales of troubled minds. Skeletons covering the mountainside. A treacherous reality in the pines.
Winter reveals the hidden lies. Moonlight couldn't mask their cries. Shadows caught in sunlit skies. There's no cover, no disguise. All the secrets spill on down. Voices loud in this old town. From the courthouse to the ground. Rumors fly and they can't be
Winter reveals the hidden lie. Moonlight could mask their cries. Shadows caught in sunlit skies. There's no cover, no disguise.
All the secrets spill on down. Voices loud in this old town. From the courthouse to the ground. Rumors fly and they can't be
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I hope everybody is staying warm and having a good holiday. Happy holidays. It's Sunday. I hope you're having a great Lord's Day. Alan, let this dog in before she starts barking, please. Pups trying to get in your room. My name is Elizabeth, and this is Hillbilly Crime. How high is your power bill this month? How high was it last month? Do you know what track you're on for this month? Usually they'll send me like an email or a text message or something. I don't remember how it comes, but I get this little thing, a reminder or notice, I guess, and it tells me what I'm on track for this month. If I'm on track to be higher or lower than last month bill. Colleen, she says hers was 152. But it's mild here. That's really good. I'm not sure where you live either. We are going to look at a grid, a picture that shows us. I'm glad I didn't go live on Facebook yet. Let me grab these pictures and send them to myself real quick. And we are going to look at, honey, we got a whole show. We got a whole show. We're going to look at some things. Now, many years ago, there were several of us who got together and started this group called We Have Had Enough, I think is the name of it. And me and Steve Brewer started it, and we protested and we went and spoke. We had a whole bunch of members. People joined our group, and we really, really tried to fight at Freddie Coleman. Freddie and Marie Coleman were Freddie was the workhorse. Anybody who knows Freddie and Marie Coleman, they are wonderful people. Absolutely wonderful people. And I just couldn't say more wonderful things about them. I love those people. Anyway, so oh, okay. Here, I was looking for some Christmas. It said we had a Christmas pack ready. Just got one candy cane frame. We got the gingerbread man, holidays badge. There we go, you guys. There we go. I like that one. Is that too much? Y'all let me know if that's too much, and we'll take it down. Okay. So, several years ago, we went, and because they were having a big PSC meeting, the PSC board is a group. It's a 3-member board. And I've got all kinds of stuff that I'm going to read for you. So, what the PSC board is, just in plain English, okay? So, because a lot of things, it's so complicated. They make this stuff so complicated that who can even understand, right? And they tell you different things for different situations, different circumstances. It's all situational. But the Kentucky Public Service Commission is what that is. And it's usually called the PSC. It's a 3-person state board that acts like a referee, okay, between a monopoly utility company, power, gas, water, telecommunications, telecom for short, and you, the customer, okay? Now, whenever we went to speak, and whenever they were trying to request a rate hike, I think it was like 2017, around about, they were requesting this huge rate hike. Well, they're requesting another one right now. So people better be paying attention. You better be paying attention, because I'm going to tell you some things tonight that you don't know. I'm sure of it. I'm sure that you don't know. And if you do, then you're one of very few. Okay? Now, the PSC, they do not run the power company. They don't generate electricity. They decide what the monopoly is legally allowed to charge you. So it's very, it's hands-on. And these 3 people who are appointed to that board, they are the ones who decide these things. Now, Angie Hatton is a former state representative in this area, and she's Jamie Hatton's sister, the granddaughter of Ernest Cook, who was a very big name around here way back when. generational power. She's an attorney. She's a lawyer. Imagine that. A lawyer being on the PSC board. So they decide what the monopoly, the Kentucky power, is legally allowed to charge you. Now, I remember when we all went to speak to the PSC board in Hazard, she got up there and spoke with us. She had her written comments. She had her speech all wrote out. And she got up there and she asked them to deny the rate hike, just like the rest of us did. What happens when a politician goes from requesting the denial and fighting on our side? Now she sits on that PSC board, and do you think they get denied? So they decide what the monopoly is legally allowed to charge you. Now, who sits on the PSC? The PSC has 3 commissioners, 1 chair, 2 commissioners. Now, how they get there? They're appointed by the governor, confirmed by the state senate. They serve 4-year terms. They are not elected by the public. That's a very important part. So, you can't vote them out, but their decisions directly affect your power bills every single month. So we have them to thank. Now, that's important. What the PSC is supposed to do by law, the PSC's job is to ensure utility rates are, quote unquote, fair, just, and reasonable. Those 3 words, fair, just, and reasonable. But you're going to learn that those 3 words don't necessarily relate to us, the customers. Those 3 words more so relate to the Kentucky power. Now, it's not supposed to be excessive, no confiscatory to the utility. But remember, reasonable does not mean affordable. That's a really big distinction. Now, it means legally justified under the law. Now, what kinds of companies they regulate? The PSC oversees electric utilities like Kentucky Power. Natural gas companies, they also sit over those, the natural gas companies. It's not just the Kentucky Power. No, they got their hands in all kinds of state business. Water and sewer systems, some telecom services. Anytime a monopoly utility wants to raise any kind of rates, add a surcharge, recover a cost, finance an old debt, it has to ask the PSC first. Now, what a PSC case actually is, when you hear about a rate case, this is what's happening. Utility files a giant application. It's usually thousands of pages. It makes me think of what they do whenever the government shuts down and they have to send in this big proposal, the big law or whatever it is that they, and it's thousands and thousands of pages and nobody can read it all. Can they? It's really, really hard to read it all. And a lot of times they sneak stuff in there, don't they? That's what I've always heard. Well, they didn't give it to us until midnight. We had to vote at 6 o'clock this morning. And so we only had 6 hours to read. 10,000 pages. And so we must have missed that part. Because they've just signed, I'm just creating an example in my head. Or out loud. That's how that happens, I think. Now, the PSC staff analyzed the numbers. The interveners, like the Attorney General, weigh in. Do you trust the Kentucky Attorney General? I don't trust any of them as far as I can pick them up and throw them. Not Angie Hatton either. Public hearings are held. Does that matter? I remember how many state representatives, I remember how many elected politicians, elected officials showed up at the PSC meeting that I went to. The whole auditorium was full of people who had requested to speak. You know, you got to sign up sometimes at those things prior, before the meeting starts, just to let them know that you want to give a public comment. And if you're not on that sign-up sheet, then you don't get to talk. But anyway, so customers can submit comments. The PSC issues a final order. Now, that order is law unless it's overturned in court. Now, what the PSC does not do, and this matters, the PSC does not cap bills based on income. They do not require utilities to make good investments. This is a very, very important part that you're going to want to listen to. The costs, their costs, the utility company's costs are always passed on to us, the customers. So if they go making bad investments, if they make bad business decisions and they lose their shirt, who do you think pays for that? It's not them. It ain't them. That cost gets pushed right on to us, the consumers. So the PSC board does not require them to make good business decisions. They can lose their shirt, but since they are the monopoly, since they are the only power company that we have, they are considered an essential service. So does that mean that the government will bail them out if they got in trouble because they made bad business decisions? Is that what that means? Or that we, the customers, have to continue to pay for their bad business decisions? They do not punish companies for bad outcomes. They do not compare your rates to the rest of the nation, even though we are one of the poorest regions, and we also pay the highest utility prices, energy prices. They do not guarantee affordability. Their lens is very narrow. Their lens is, does this follow the law and the math? Period. Not, can people survive this? They don't give a damn. Now, how much PSC commissioners make? This surprises a lot of folks. Public salary records show that PSC commissioners make roughly $150,000 to $160,000 a year. That's a pretty nice appointment, isn't it? That's a pretty nice annual salary. And if you do several different things, man, oh man, I'm telling you, you be go run for one of these elected offices and you're going to make more money than doing anything else. So, them PSCs, Angie Hatton, man, 150, 160,000 a year. The chair makes slightly more than the others. Full benefits, state retirement, they are financially secure, even as they approve rates that hurt people on fixed incomes. Now, that doesn't make them evil, no, but it does explain the distance between us versus them. Now, why public comments feel ignored when you speak at a PSC hearing? Your words go into the official record. Commissioners are required to consider them, but legally, they do not have to rule based on public anger or hardship. Doesn't matter. They rule based on evidence, statutes, and precedent. So people leave thinking, well, they listened, but nothing changed. Because listening does not equal protection. The simplest way to explain the PSC. All right. The PSC is 3 unelected officials who decide how much monopoly power companies are allowed to charge people who have no other option. Their job is to protect the system, not necessarily the people inside of it. Now, that's not inflammatory. That's factual. Okay? It's factual. When competition is illegal, surprise, 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 it would be illegal for us to have any other power company to choose from. That's what I found out during my research. When competition is illegal, regulation becomes the only protection. And when regulation forgets affordability, people fall through the cracks. Big time. Big time. People fall through the cracks. All right. So let's see. Let me get over here. We are going to watch this. I guess we can go ahead and watch it now. We're going to watch this interview that was done. It's WYMT. And here's Angie Hatton.
Everything is getting more
Listen,
expensive.
Mute that until it's over.
Rate increase by Kentucky Power, the utility. Public Service Commission, or PSC, will hold another public comment meeting this week in Hazard about a proposed controversial rate increase by Kentucky Power. The utility company cites rising operation costs and industry challenges. Many are unhappy about it. Tonight, we're going to try to explain what the PSC can and cannot do, and hopefully answer some questions you might have about this process with Whitesburg attorney, former state representative, and the chair of the Kentucky Public Service Commission.
All right, now see, there we go. So I was thinking that Jamie was the Whitesburg city attorney. It's not Jamie, it's his sister. It's Angie. So Angie is the Whitesburg city attorney. So that would be her then that would have been over the Daniel Boone, being the legal representation over the Daniel Boone Hotel, then that's down there in Whitesburg. It still seems like an awful big conflict of interest when her brother is the one who owned that building for so long.
Angie Hatton, tonight on Issues and Answers, the Mountain Edition.
From WYMT Mountain News, this is Issues and Answers, the Mountain Edition.
I'll probably
$50 a
fuss
month.
at me
by
over
the
that.
PSC.
Good to see you.
Thank you so
A
much.
little
Merry
bit of
Christmas
music
early.
right there.
Merry
Thing
Christmas
I'll have
to
to
you
cut
and
it
your
out.
listeners.
I know it's been a busy time for you. You've got another hearing this week. But first, I just wanted to ask, you were appointed to the PSC by Governor Beshear, right, in 2023.
That's right.
Is that something you wanted to do?
It is. When I was a state representative, I came, I think, 6 different times to public comment hearings held by the PSC and yelled at the PSC, and told them how I felt about them and they needed to do their job. And I really felt like I knew what the PSC did. But as it turns out, I'm learning these days that it's a lot more complicated than I thought it was. But at the time, I remember telling Governor Beshear that I really hoped that somebody from this area of Kentucky, from Eastern Kentucky, would get appointed to the PSC when there was an opening. And as it turns out, he remembered that and appointed me. And then I was confirmed by the Senate in early 2024. I've just been reappointed this summer and am up for confirmation again this coming session.
All right. And you've been chair since when?
Since August
Okay.
of 24.
Okay. So what does
So she goes in as a freshman PSC, never done it before, no experience whatsoever. And she just said herself that it was a lot more complicated than what she thought it was. And they already made her chair. How do you do that? How do you go in at the bottom of the rung and then be made, CEO and president within a year? I mean, it's okay hey, if she was the best woman for the job, I don't have no problem with her getting it. None whatsoever. It just makes me wonder, all these appointments. Man.
the PSC do? And why do we need it?
We are the most important agency that most people have never heard of. We touch nearly every household in that we set rates for utilities. We regulate 1,100 utilities in the state of Kentucky. Electric, gas, water, and sewer, everything except municipal water and electric companies.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you go to turn on your power, if we've done our job, it comes on. And when you go to get your bill, that's us. We've set those rates.
So a lot of people have been talking about Kentucky Power recently, wanting to increase residential rates by nearly 15%. They say the loss of population and industry has created challenges and pushed costs higher for them. Do you think the increase is warranted?
So I can't actually comment on an open case because we are the judges in those cases.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't talk about a specific issue in an open case. But what I can tell you is that across the country, utility rates are rising at about double the rate of inflation, and that there are a lot of things that contribute to that. Kentucky Power does have a really tough territory. I will say that for them. They do. The mountainous terrain, it's difficult to maintain right-of-way and prevent outages, and that infrastructure gets expensive. They've also had pretty intense loss of population, and so the same amount of infrastructure expense has to get spread among fewer people. And so it is a really tough area to provide electricity. They are the highest electric rates in the state. So people are concerned, and I know they are. I live here too. So I absolutely understand that. We will have the hearing next month and determine what.
She lives here too, but she can also afford to pay her power bill. No matter how high it is, she makes enough money on her monthly income that she can pay her power bill. We're going to talk about an 85, well, she was 87, an 87-year-old woman who I went to church with, who unplugged her hot water heater. She heated water on her stove to bathe in. She did not, she unplugged her microwave. She went out and hung all of her clothes on a line outside, even in the wintertime. She did not use her dryer. She tried everything to lower her power bill. She went outside to hang some clothes in the winter, and she slipped on some ice, and she broke her back. And she finally had to give, and her power bill was $800 a month, every single month. She lived by herself. She did not use that much power. And she had taken all of these steps to lower her power bill, and it didn't do anything. $800, that's all she got. That's all she drew monthly, was less than $1,000. So she finally had to give up her independence, even at 87 years old. Okay. She still had to give up her home. She had to give up her independence, and she went to go live with her daughter. Because of her power bill, her electricity was the catalyst for all of that. Okay. We're going to learn why homes like hers carries the highest costs. My church, they're only there, the church that I went to, they're only there on Sundays, twice on Sundays, and Wednesday night Bible study for a couple hours. That's it. How do they have a $1,200 a month power bill every single month? How does a church, how is their power bill that high every single winter month? We're going to learn why. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to explain
reasonable about the requests that they're making and what parts aren't reasonable.
Yeah. I've heard some say, well, they're asking for 15%, knowing that they won't get all of that, but there will still be an increase probably approved. Is that what you think will happen?
I can see that pattern is something people notice for sure. We at the Public Service Commission go through the application with a fine-tooth comb, and we remove things that are not reasonable expenses, but some things are reasonable expenses, and they're entitled to those reasonable expenses. The Constitution
laws
guarantees that we don't take private property for public use without recompense. And surprisingly, that is how the parameters around how we set electric rates. They're private companies. They're for-profit companies in most cases, unless you're in a co-op region. And if they are entitled to have their expenses recovered, and they're recovered from their ratepayers. And if not, then we're taking private money that was expended and giving it for public use without compensating them properly. So costs of everything are on the rise. You can see in your grocery bill and everything else that you're purchasing that costs are increasing. And the same is true for the cost that electric companies have to expend. They, I think the cost of power poles has increased by 75% for just replacing a pole. Cost of transformers, the cost is about double what it was just a few years ago. So they are entitled to their expenses, and they're also entitled to a reasonable rate of return. And I think that's something I didn't understand before I was on the PSC. And that means that their shareholders are entitled to a reasonable return on their investment. And if we deny that, then the credit rating agencies will
Now, so did you hear that? The shareholders, the people who own Kentucky Power, all of the people who are making money from that business. Now, remember, I told you they don't have to make good business decisions. If they decide to take that money that they've got and invest it into some big investment and the bottom falls out of that, do you think that we're the ones that are going to pay for that? Or do you think that they are the ones that are going to have to find the money somewhere else? No. It is unbelievable. I've got a whole thing written, so I don't want to say too much until I read what I'm supposed to be reading.
rate them to the point that a company can't get debt at a reasonable cost. And if they have to pay too much in interest rates and for their debt, then the ratepayers pay that. And if they don't get their at least return on expenses and a reasonable rate of return on their investment.
So it sounds to me like the PSC board really is the Kentucky Power's attorneys, so they can make sure, that's what it looks like to me. They can make sure that they make their reasonable rate of return, regardless of how affordable it is for the people of southeastern Kentucky and western Virginia. I don't even, let's see. Let me pull up. Well, we better finish listening to her first. I've got the map, and we're going to look at what region Kentucky Power is in.
They go under, and then no one has power.
I keep hearing,
They ain't
air
going
costs
under.
are higher than a lot of places across the country. Is that true? And is that doesn't seem fair?
Well, I absolutely resonate with that sentiment for sure. In Kentucky overall, we are below the national average and considerably below the national average. We're still, in general, a good place to come put your business or, take up residence because we do have cheaper power than the national average. Kentucky Power's territory is the highest cost electricity in the state. Mm-hmm. And for a lot of the reasons we mentioned earlier.
So can you?
For a lot of the reasons we mentioned earlier, are you talking about because the power poles and the transformers, Angie? Is the power poles and the transformers going up in cost? Is that why we have the highest? Are those the ones that you were talking about? And why would WYMT invite her to sit down and talk about this when she's not even allowed to comment on an open case? So there's a case open right now. This is why we're all talking about it. I mean, okay, she's telling us some things, but all it does is piss me off. I don't know about y'all, but everything that she says just makes me madder and madder and madder. We're the people. We're the ones that have to suffer through this. And there's absolutely no bailout for us. When somebody can't pay their power bill, and if you get behind, say 2 months, 3 months, and your power and your bills are so sky high like that, I mean, you're talking $3,000. I mean, who's got that kind of money in one big chunk? People are being forced to either pay to make a decision, whether I buy my medicine this month, I buy food and eat this month. Oh no, but you can go up to the Cane Kitchen and get the giveaway. You can go to the food bank. Why should we have to make those kinds of decisions? One person, 87 years old, $1,000 a month. You look at every single household in the state of Kentucky or in our region, Kentucky Power's region, how much money you think they make in there, Angie? Yeah, they need a reasonable rate of return, honey. They sure do. Them mansions and them yachts. It's taking more gas to fuel them.
Not set a zero increase or even decrease rates. Is that impossible?
It is very close to impossible. And for all the reasons that we talked about a few minutes ago, it is...
What?
First of all, the Public Service Commission is supposed to be the balancing agency. So we are supposed to make sure that the rates aren't exorbitant, that they are as reasonable, as low as we can possibly keep them. But we also have to make sure that power is reliable, and that when you go to turn on your power switch, that there's power there. And, you know, again, we have to make sure that the utilities interests are also included in that. You know, they have to have the money that they need to operate. So
you're going to pay these costs or you're not going to have no power, period. That's what she's saying.
I did definitely think that before I learned more about the laws. And we're not in control of the laws that we operate.
No, because people like you in the state representatives, you lawmakers went to Washington and created these laws for them. So you go to the Capitol and you create these laws, and then you get appointed to the board. Yeah. So how does that make any sense? How is that right? That our lawmakers, remember, we're voting these people in. These people that we are voting in as our lawmakers, and we're sending to the Capitol as our representatives to make these laws. We keep sending lawyers like Angie, and now, you know, I don't care how nice of a person they are, okay? I don't care how nice they are. They are lawyers. That's their profession. That is what they are trained in, is the law. So they go to Washington or to the Capitol, and they make these laws that they are very aware of what they are doing because that's what they're educated in. It's not like sending a business person with an MBA, although I think that's exactly what we should be doing. We should be sending people who are not attorneys. It's just like policing the police. They're regulating their own profession and everybody else's profession. And now, and then they're the ones who get appointed to these boards. So our lawmakers went and made these laws. We're going to talk about it here after this is over.
Right under, that's the General Assembly, and to some extent the federal law as well. But within the parameters we're given, it would be very, very difficult to set a zero increase or a decrease. And if you followed the news, we get sued a lot. We've lost 2 rounds of legal battles in Franklin Circuit Court just this year, or within the past year, with Kentucky Power for decreases that the court did not uphold. We also recently, the PSC and the Kentucky Attorney General's Office joined forces together to file a lawsuit at the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, the FERC, about the transmission allocation, the way that AEP allocates its transmission costs among its different affiliates, AEP Ohio, AEP Michigan, AEP Indiana, AEP Kentucky, et cetera. And we lost there as well. But that case is currently under appeal. So when we do go too far, we get sued.
Okay, what stuff are you going too far on, though? Are you going too far on stuff that's even going to affect us? Right? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it does. Maybe it don't. I don't know. They sure don't never tell us a damn thing, do they? And what they do tell us is only what they want us to know. Miss Linda? Yeah, that's a lot of money for you all lights and gas bills. I mean, here where I live, I have a fit when my lights are $40 a month or a bit lower. Your light bill, your power bill is only $40 a month. Is that what you said? Like mine here in my little 4-room house, 5-room house, I say 4 or 5. Okay. So we've got 2 rooms right there. One's a bedroom for one boy. One's a bedroom for the other boy. I have this room where I sleep right there. I work right here and my TV's right there. You know, it's just one little room right here. And then I have my kitchen. So I have 4 rooms. There's a bathroom on the other side of the kitchen, but there's no toilet in it. It's got a shower and a dryer and a sink. The only toilet is a half bath in Alan's room. So I have 5 rooms, including that little bathroom area, a little shower room. And my power bill in the wintertime, in the peak months, the most it's been, I guess, the most it's ever been was probably about $300, $350 at the most. That would be the most, $350, and that would only have been like 1 or 2 months. But I have a propane wall heater, so I heat with propane, and I bought me a couple little electric heaters. But just for my little place, that's a lot. That's a lot. I'd say normal would be about $250. About $250. When they go too far, that is plausible deniability slip in there.
Well, you know, I saw a report from the Appalachian Citizens Law Center that Kentucky Power's bills have increased nearly 40% since 2020.
I didn't see that article, so I'm not 100%. I guess I couldn't confirm or deny that, but I don't deny the reporting.
Yeah. Are other utility companies in the state asking for similar increases?
Yes. Yes. And all of our investor-owned utilities have asked for increases this year.
I've heard a lot of questions about these so-called riders on bills, too. A lot of people have noticed those in the last few months, and those have increased bills.
Yes.
Tell me what those are, and I mean, is that normal?
So the riders could be for various things: fuel adjustment clause, environmental surcharge. There used to be a retirement rider for the Big Sandy coal plant retirement, and there's also a fairly recent rider on Kentucky Power bills for the securitization expense. The legislature 2 years ago passed a bill that allows them to securitize certain expenses, regulatory assets, and that included the shutdown of the plant, as well as several $1 million in storm expenses. And so they securitize those expenses, and that shows up as a rider on the bill. The alternative to having those expenses in a rider is that they just get rolled into a rate with no explanation. And so for transparency's sake, I would rather that they be listed separately as a rider. But I do think that those riders contribute to the fact that even though Kentucky Power's rates are not very much higher than other utilities, that the overall bills are higher than most of the other utilities.
So you got 2 more meetings, right, about this Kentucky Power increase, one in Hazard this week, right?
That's right. We have public comment hearings, and we're not required to have those, but we do. We go out anytime there's a.
We're not required to have them, so I'm just letting you know this. We're doing this as a courtesy to all you people out there who have something that you have to say to us.
A case that is of public interest and a rate increase request is definitely of public interest. We go out into the community. So in this case, we had one in Pikeville, and now we'll have the one in Hazard this coming Thursday. And then we'll also have one in Ashland after that. And we listen to people's comments. The PSC commissioners can't respond to questions at those hearings because, like I said, we're the judges. And we can't prejudge a case because we haven't heard the evidence yet. But we listen to people and their questions. And often if you watch our public hearings, when we have the hearings in Frankfurt, we'll ask questions of the applicant at those hearings that we heard at public comment hearings. So if you have a question about your service or your bill and you bring that up at the public comment hearing, we can then use that to form our questions that we want to know from the utilities when we have our hearings.
I know the rhetoric on social media has become a little bit concerning towards you guys and certainly the power companies. How concerning is that to you?
Well, Steve, there are public service commissioners across the country in other states who travel with security all the time. I don't think we're at that point, but there have been some concerning comments, both written comments that were sent in and comments made in public or on social media. And that's one of the reasons I'm really glad that you invited me to come today, because the more people understand the way these rates are set, maybe the more we can tone down the vitriol and the concerning comments that make power company officials who, I mean, most of them are local people that are.
We're robbing you, but we want you to sit there and take it politely. Ain't that the way that Eastern Kentucky seems to treat us? We are going to violate your rights. We are going to rob you. We're going to take everything from you and make it as hard and as difficult on you to live in the mountains as we can. But we want you, we're going to flood it with, let all these drugs come in there. We're going to flood it with all these, I mean, come on, y'all. Come on. It's exactly the way that it's always been. We're going to abuse the people of our state repeatedly in so many different ways. And if you dare ask any questions, if you dare have any kind of negative reaction whatsoever, then it looks bad on that. We're the bad guys. Because, you know, we're so special.
Your neighbors, you know, who are providing your power, and they don't need to be trying to work dealing with that fear. Yeah. And then the Public Service Commission, it's a tough job. I knew it was a tough job when I accepted it. There are a lot of.
She lost her election, and whenever she lost the election for the state representative, governor appointed her to this, which she's also, I was shocked to find out, she lists herself as a civil rights attorney. So Angie is listed as a civil rights attorney. We got a lot of people whose civil rights are being violated left and right here in Eastern Kentucky. I wonder how many civil rights cases she's filed. or one. It'd be some of our diggers, if any of our diggers want to dig up some of her handiwork, see what kind of big cases that she has been involved in.
A lot of ways that I understand exactly, because I used to do it myself and go and almost to the point of yelling at the PSC before I joined it and understood. We serve a vital role, and
now she understands. She was screaming too before I really understood what they did and how important it is that we approve these rate increases. You know, we got to keep them in business. We got to keep them happy. We have to. You can't make the money men mad. No.
we're doing our best.
Yeah. So when can we expect a decision on the Kentucky Power increase?
Their hearing is in January, and the due date for the order coming out of that, I believe, is in March. I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact date right now.
Okay. I know one thing you've been asked is why can't you guys take away a utilities monopoly territory when you don't like their rates?
Right.
So kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Steve. So monopolies are set up for utilities to prevent duplication of service. When electricity was first invented and wealthier people in large cities like New York City were first starting to sign up for electric service at their house, the electric generation company would run a wire directly to their home. And then competition sprung up among different companies who wanted to provide electricity. And so there were electric wires snaking all over, say, New York City. And I've seen some pictures of it, and it's pretty wild looking, because it became very duplicative and definitely not an efficient way to run power lines, and extra expense. So long time ago, decades ago, the idea for monopoly territories for utilities was developed, and basically a private company would get a monopoly territory where they're guaranteed no competition, but in return they agree to be regulated. And so it's a trade-off, and they don't get to just charge whatever they want. They have to submit to us every expenditure. Anytime they want to build new generation or new lines, new transmission, anything like that, they have to apply for it, and we have to approve it.
Yeah. I'm sure you understand that there are going to be a lot of people in these cases that won't accept anything less than no increase. They want no increase. That they say right now it's too much.
Yeah,
it is.
So what do you say to them?
I say that we are doing our absolute best to make sure that every charge that comes out on those bills is the most reasonable, and that it has been, like I said, gone over with a fine-tooth comb. Anything excess has been removed. And actually, the Attorney General's office, consumer advocate, is housed within the Office of Rate Intervention at the Attorney General's office. And the Attorney General represents the people. So they have a lawyer, they have a voice in this. And, often these things are settlements, but the PSC doesn't always accept the settlements that are presented before us if we think that they, were too high in the first place. We often adjust and modify those settlements, but, the people are represented by the Attorney General's office in these cases. We also have interveners, various organizations, Appalachian Citizens Law Center, and sometimes the Kentucky Coal Association, and Kentucky Industrial Utilities customers. But there are multiple parties to these cases, and sometimes they will reach a settlement, but there are multiple entities that are looking out for the ratepayers.
I know another question you've been asked is why don't you deregulate like some states have done to eliminate monopolies?
That is a really good question too, Steve. I appreciate that very complicated issue. So some states like Ohio and Pennsylvania deregulated years ago, and that means that they required their utilities to sell their generation, and they're basically just distribution companies. In Kentucky, we're vertically integrated, which means that our utilities own their generation as well as their distribution and transmission. And we have always, since the PSC was instituted in 1939, emphasized that our utilities are to have their own generation. They're to have enough steel in the ground to meet their native load. They produce enough power to take care of their own customers before they sell out into the market. In the deregulated states, they have required their utilities to sell their generation, and they just distribute power, and they buy the power competitively on the market. So that does mean there's more choice. But in the last few years, by and large, the deregulated states have been really sorry that they deregulated. And a lot of them are looking at re-regulating because the market price has really gone through the roof, and it's very volatile. So although our power bills do vary here according to the cost of fuel, the fuel adjustment clause, and some other things, nothing like the way they vary and the unpredictability and volatility in those other states. So that was a question that I've been asking a lot lately too, out of the past, the 3 years that I've been serving on the commission. Why don't we just deregulate? Wouldn't that be?
Well, I have another question that I'll throw at, or I don't know about a question, but Kentucky is different than Pennsylvania and Ohio. Our area is much more rural than they are up there. So, and mountainous. So I don't know if the same kind of outcomes would, be here as it is there. Who knows? But you never know until you try either. And, why don't you talk to the people? Maybe the people would want to risk it. Who knows? But I don't think that you can continue to reward Kentucky Power. You can't continue to reward them for bad behavior because that's what they're doing. It's bad behavior. Like, where is the checks and balances on them having to make good decisions, business decisions? The customers it should not be our place to constantly bail out rich people who don't know how to make good business decisions. Because if they made much better business decisions, we wouldn't be seeing these kinds of costs. I don't remember exactly. I don't remember exactly the details of it back in 2017, but I'm wanting to say that there was a plant in West Virginia. There was a plant in West Virginia that we ended up having to pay for like 3 times. Down. We had to pay for it like 3 times, if I'm not mistaken. When we had the paperwork and going through and trying to look at the numbers and the financials of the stuff that we were having, that the costs that were being pushed on to us. Any kind of loss that they have, we pay for that loss. There's no consequences. There's nobody ever held accountable for their bad decisions. She's not telling us that either. CEO of the utility company get $350,000 a year plus bonuses. Oh yes. Don't forget those bonuses. Don't forget those bonuses. And SOAR, Shaping Our Appalachian Region. You go to one of those SOAR summits. Kentucky Power is one of the biggest donors and supporters of that. I've been to many of them. I went to, pissed off the CEO of Kentucky Power. Of course, you know I would. I was the only one that had the nerve to ask him some hard questions. Everybody else was just standing there kissing his butt. He didn't like me too much.
Better, wouldn't it be better to have some competition? But in general, they are not better off than the regulated states in this volatile market right now. The base residual auction that was held, it's held twice a year. The last three have skyrocketed. And states like Pennsylvania and Ohio have seen tremendous increases.
As a former state representative, is there anything the General Assembly should be doing right now and looking at to try and bring utility costs down?
Well, I will tell you that the state representatives and senators from this area are looking at it. They are very much involved, in contact with us, and having discussions among themselves. I keep hearing that the upcoming General Assembly will be an energy session. There will be multiple bills dealing with energy, power bills, reliability. They've done a number of things recently. In the General Assembly, they filed legislation that made it much more difficult to shut down a coal-fired power plant. And they created the Energy Planning and Inventory Commission, EPIC, to look at those things, not just planning for the resource mix for Kentucky's resources in the future for utilities, and then also taking a very hard look at anyone who moves to shut down any sort of coal or gas generation in favor of more green energy. And I'll say what we've noticed in Kentucky is that our resource mix, which is still somewhere between 55 and maybe 60% coal, has been more reliable than a lot of the states that had green energy mandates and moved much more quickly toward green energy. So as a rule, those states like Kentucky and West Virginia that kept more of a diverse mix of resources and kept some coal in their mix have been better off for reliability. Now prices, that's debatable. And mixing in some green energy in there does help with prices for ratepayers, but they're not in general as reliable a resource.
How much do you blame the decline of the coal industry on these rising costs?
I think in eastern Kentucky, it is definitely a factor. The Big Sandy coal-fired power plant that was shut down de-employed a lot of people. I don't think that's a word, de-employed, but a lot of people lost their jobs, and coal plants went out of business, and associated industries like mine supply stores and trucking went out of business. It can't all be blamed on that. Natural gas got much cheaper when we developed the technology to frack in this country, and that had a lot to do with the decline. So as far as the reason that we lost all our coal jobs, there's lots of reasons, and federal regulation didn't help any either. But to the extent that it caused depopulation and that fewer people are paying more for the same infrastructure at the power company, that could definitely be tied directly to the downturn in the coal industry, in that people were employed by coal. And when they're not employed and businesses go down, then there's no businesses to absorb very many of the costs, because business rates are generally higher than residential rates. And so the residential customers are paying for nearly all of the electric company's infrastructure because we've lost so much in population.
Well, and I know there's projections of further population loss.
Yeah.
Forgot I was muted. She just said it. We're paying for all of their infrastructure. We pay for everything. Don't get that twisted. We pay for everything. all the costs. I mean, we pay for it all.
So, obviously you think costs are going to.
It's hard to find the bright side. And in a recent case that we had, certificate of public convenience in the necessity case that we had with Kentucky Power, that was one of the questions I asked. Please show me the bright side. Where's the light at the end of the tunnel here? And I don't know that there was a satisfactory answer.
Do you regret taking this job?
I don't. And I know that means there's something wrong with me if I love this job, but I do, Steve. I do still love the job. I know that, there's a lot of heat and a lot of pressure that comes with it, but it's the kind of job where I learn something new every single day about very complicated issues. And I intend to, for the rest of my days, spend my working years and my working days trying to make things better. And we're looking for the answers.
Is there a good argument that commissioners should be elected instead of appointed?
Well, in some states they are. There are states in this country where utility commissioners are elected, some statewide and some on a regional basis. In some states, it's like the Secretary of State and Attorney General's office. It's a statewide election for their commissioners. And I've asked the same question myself a lot before I was a public service commissioner, because it felt like some accountability. The issue that I personally would have with it is that until there's some campaign finance reform in this country, that utilities have a lot more money to donate to campaigns, especially through dark money like political action committees, and that I would be afraid that that's where the money to elect people would come from. And that would be outsized influence on people that were elected. I don't know that that's how it would happen, but that's what it feels like it would happen to me.
Well, if she's aware that that's how that works, you'd think that she would be much more aware of what all's been going on in Whitesburg. But yeah. Said that she was part of Hatton and Mullins law firm. Was that the law firm? Because see, all those lawyers down there, they work together, they partner together. They've all kind of been partners at one point in time. I've had many lawyers tell me recently they don't know how in the hell Jamie Hatton, Michael Watts, and all of them get away with doing it, because they work as the prosecutors. They're all the county prosecutors, Commonwealth attorney, assistant Commonwealth attorneys, both. And at the same time, they're all partnered together in private law firms right across the street, So they're doing divorces, they're doing civil cases, injury, personal injury, property, you name it. So how are they working as the prosecutors in the area and all of these civil cases together? So they're working with all the same people. That's a lot of conflicts of interest. So you control everything, basically. Child custody, well, very few people know to get a lawyer with social services, but how do they do it? How do they control everything? And was she in a private practice with Kevin Mullins? Because that's the only lawyer that I know down there of Mullins would be Kevin Mullins.
So our current system where the governor appoints and the Senate confirms feels like the more balanced way to do it, especially while we have, a governor of one party and a Senate that's controlled by the other party. It feels like more of a balance. The two commissioners before me were not confirmed, and one after me was not confirmed. So the Senate does have the power that they can exercise to not confirm appointments.
A couple minutes left. Is there anything
That tells you a lot, doesn't it? 2 appointments before her were not confirmed, and the appointment after her was not confirmed. Well, what makes her so special that she gets confirmed? Huh?
You wanted to bring up that we haven't discussed yet.
I guess just that I would encourage people to come to the public comment hearing and express yourselves. And I think it's really important. We wouldn't do it if we didn't think it was important. We don't have to come, but we come because we want to hear what people's thoughts are. And
Oh,
we've learned a lot from doing these things. I
okay.
would just ask that when people do come that they
So you're saying that her name was Mullins. It wasn't partnered with Mullins. Okay. So she's probably in her, well, I don't know. She probably partnered with somebody
Someone looks on that
down there. Because usually, like, you've got Hatton and Watts law office. That's Jamie Hatton, her brother, and Michael Watts, the assistant county attorney. But he's running now for county attorney since Jamie is not gonna run anymore. You know, they just pass it down to whoever they want to have it next. It's not a real election to where we get an actual choice. No, that's not the way they do it around here. They make each other, or I don't know about make. I guess they just, I don't know what. Well, I mean, I don't know.
Finish the clip.
I don't know how they do that. I guess they're just all friends. And so they all just talk about it. They must. And say, I'm running again. And whenever I decide not to run again, then it'll be your turn. And so everybody just falls in line with that. You know, you can't challenge the Godfather. So you fall in line with that and you don't run because somebody told you not to. Like, what? Sounds like made men, doesn't it? Doesn't it sound like the mob? Doesn't it sound like the mafia? It's what it sounds like to me.
listen when other people are talking and be civil, because that's the only way that these things are meaningful. And I know there's some extreme emotions associated with this. I feel them myself. I feel the sympathy and the anger. And I know that this is a big bread and butter issue for people in their households that they're dealing with right now. And would just emphasize that we really are doing our best and that we're here to listen and come on out and tell us what you think.
All right.
But it doesn't matter. You go out and tell them what you think. They don't give a damn. Because remember, they're not obligated. They're not obligated to have these. And nothing that we say at them is going to make any difference, because emotion and affordability don't mean nothing. That doesn't have anything
interest in getting back into politics one day.
No, sir.
That was a fast answer.
I guess I would not say never, but like I said, I really enjoy doing what I'm doing. I really do. I feel like this is an opportunity to have a big impact, and I spend every day trying to figure out how to help.
And your term doesn't expire till what, 2029, I think?
Assuming I'm confirmed.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Angie, I appreciate you
Thank you,
being
sir.
with us, being willing to talk. talk about this tonight.
Thank you for having me. It's an important issue, Steve. I
Yes.
appreciate you.
All right. Thank you for joining us.
You didn't sell my clip, dang it.
All right. All right. All right. Don't you go back under there. Okay. All right. We're going to click on that.
All right, we need 3.
All right. So now let me jump over here and we are going to talk about these bad leadership behavior trickles down
188.
and it trickles down fast. So we are talking about the Kentucky Power rate increase tonight. And we are just talking about what they're asking for. What are they asking for? Did you all catch any of that when they mentioned that? 15% increase. That's a lot. Now, bad leadership behavior trickles down. And when leaders model pettiness, retaliation, public accusations, procedural gamesmanship, employees learn very quickly that survival matters more than service. Instead of asking, what's best for the city? People start asking, who will be mad if I do this? Will this email get subpoenaed? Am I about to be dragged into a political fight? That creates fear-based decision making, not ethical governance. Now, political or public records requests sometimes can become weapons, not transparency tools. Open records laws are meant to promote accountability, build public trust, protect democracy. But when leaders accuse each other of not complying fast enough, hiding records, selective transparency, those requests stop being about public and start being about punishment. Who pays the price? Administrative staff, clerks, finance officers, IT employees. They're the ones pulling the emails at midnight, second guessing what's safe to release, being blamed for delays that they don't control. And unlike elected officials, they can't fight back publicly. We're talking about employees that kind of get trapped between the fighting. Employees get trapped in loyalty tests that they never asked for. Remember when old Butler did the big Facebook ultimatum? Half of the people that did unfriend me, reached out to me later and said, I am so sorry. I did not want to do that. But my family member works in that office and was being threatened to be fired. They were threatened to lose their job. Other people said, my brother's on probation. My old man's on parole. We're too afraid that they will mess with their probation. They'll revoke it and put them back in jail. When leaders are at war, their own staff are forced into impossible situations. Comply with one side, accused of sabotage by the other. Ask for clarification, accused of stalling. Follow policy, accused of stonewalling. This is how good employees burn out or leave. Not because they did anything wrong, but because the environment became toxic. The public loses twice. this kind of behavior. Slows services, wastes money, erodes trust. Citizens stop believing anyone is acting in good faith, even when some people genuinely are. Eventually, everything looks corrupt. Even routine mistakes or delays. That's how dysfunction becomes normalized. Now, the quiet truth that no one wants to say out loud, most city employees aren't political. They aren't scheming. They aren't hiding anything. They're just trying to follow policy, keep their jobs, which is a very big one. If anybody speaks out, then they risk losing their job. And they will wait until the perfect moment to bring their own retaliation. They avoid becoming collateral damage, or at least that's what they're attempting to do. When leaders act badly, innocent people absorb the blast radius. The real leadership failure, true leadership, isn't about winning procedural fights, gotcha records requests, public humiliation. It's about protecting employees from political warfare, using transparency responsibly, resolving disputes without weaponizing systems. When leaders forget that, the system stops serving the public and it starts serving egos. All right? We're going to talk about egos. Just a little bit. All right. The uncomfortable truth about small county power dynamics. Let's see. Let me get down here to the meat and potatoes of it. I had another part that I was gonna, here we go, that I was gonna talk about tonight.
Push him up the stairs.
All right. We'll get down. All right.
You got up.
The rate hike. Okay. So, yeah, the PSC regulates multiple utilities, and Kentucky Power is only one of the companies that come before it. All right. We're going to kind of, this segment, I guess, would be called Follow the Money. We are going to try to follow the money. The specific rate hike that we are talking about tonight. Kentucky Power says it planned to file a base rate review on August 29th, 2025, seeking a 14.9% residential increase and a 13 to 15% commercial industrial increase. WYMT reported the case as number 2025-00257. That is the number. So in case anybody wants to do any, if you want to write or email or send your comment in, you have to know that case number. It's PSC case number 2025-00257. All right. And the hearings and comments and ongoing opposition coverage. So Kentucky Power describes its footprint as serving 162,000 customers across all part of the 20 eastern Kentucky counties with an office in Whitesburg. Kentucky Power. Is that the only office that it has? Is in Whitesburg? Let me pull up this. It's not on there. Okay, let me pull up this photograph, and it shows us the map of their region. So this is the territory. Let me take that off. Pull that down. So you've got Frankfort and Hazard. So it's in that red area. And is any of that in Virginia? I thought that Kentucky Power was in like West Virginia too. I don't know. This might just show the Kentucky counties. Oh, you guys can't see it. But I think it's just the eastern side of Kentucky there. Let me finish reading.
Corner.
All right.
Here.
Now, the PSC has an official electric service territory map and notes its territories are defined by certified maps, statute, and this is the why it feels like a monopoly backbone.
Down.
Now, the leverage budget. Here, we're going to talk about budgets and how budgets become leverage. Every time somebody says it's just a budget, I laugh. Budgets are how you punish people without ever saying you're punishing them. A line item doesn't look like revenge until you're the one getting cut. Now, the leverage triangle. In poor counties, money doesn't just buy stuff. It also buys silence. And when services are essential, like electric or fire protection, budgets become leverage. Connect the dots. We're going to try and connect some dots. So who controls the numbers? Controls the pressure points. Utility pain meets public power, honey. Pain meets power every time. Rate cases happen all the time. Kentucky Power publicly states the proposed percentage increase, 14.9% is what they are requesting now. Can you afford to pay 15% more on your power bill this month? How about next month? For January and February, we still got 2 more months coming. When people are already stretched so thin, you know, that they're struggling to buy food, a rate increase doesn't feel much like policy. It feels like a sentence. Now, follow the money. This is where we're going to shift into more of an investigative energy. Okay. Campaign money. Kentucky Registry of Election Finance. We can get information from there, right? We can look there and find candidate committees, the county judge executive, magistrates, city races, state representative, and the Senate races. We can look there for party executive committees, caucus committees, money. They can move money strategically through those. PACs and permanent committees, they can move money through there. CREF, KREF also posts contribution limits, which helps us explain how influence often comes through those PACs. Angie just said it a minute ago. She felt like she was afraid that money would get moved, or I forget exactly how she said it, but if y'all were paying attention, you heard what she said. I don't want to restate it wrong. But the influence often comes through those PACs and committees rather than direct corporate checks, rather than being able to look in there and see who donated to their campaigns, right? Oh, yeah. Corporate contributions are generally prohibited to candidate committees. Lobbying money and who represents whom. Kentucky has searchable lobbyists and /employer reporting through the Kentucky Legislative Ethics Commission.
I go to cruise. I go to invites. I have no invites.
This helps us answer the questions: who is paid to be in the room when laws and regulations are shaped? Remember, we elect these state representatives and these lawmakers, and we send them to go make the laws. Well, most of the time we're sending lawyers to regulate lawyers. Doesn't work out that way very well when police the police, does it? There's also executive agency lobbyist listings through the Kentucky Executive Branch Ethics Commission. Those are separate from legislative. Kentucky Ethics Commission, they have utility case filings, paper trail, gold mine, y'all. So any diggers that want to dig, we know where to look. PSC case pages include filings, orders, and public comments. Basically, the breadcrumb trail of what was asked for, what was argued, and what was decided. Now, we already have the case number, so we will look. So this isn't about, listen, this ain't about hating nobody. This ain't about calling nobody out, all right? It's about a system where essential services and public budgets can be used like a crowbar. If you live in a place where the bills are the highest and the wages are the lowest, the only moral question left is who benefited and who paid. Big question. All right. Why the power hikes hit differently in southeastern Kentucky? Because they absolutely hit much differently here. All right. So why the power hikes hit different in eastern Kentucky? In places like Letcher County and the surrounding mountain counties, electricity is not a luxury, okay? People heat with it. People cook with it. People survive winter with it. So when rates go up, it's not abstract policy. It's choosing between heat and groceries, medical equipment costs, seniors sitting in the cold and the dark.
Oh my God, look at me.
That's why this isn't a talking point. It's a breaking point. Why Ned Pillersdorf is yelling. We had a video. Let me see if I can pull that up real fast. you know, everybody that watches our show knows who Ned Pillersdorf is. He went to the Kentucky Power meeting. Let's pull this up and we'll show y'all. He went to the power meeting. It was one of those that I think Angie was talking about. And he gave a little speech. Let me pull it up here. Here we go.
The assistance program, has that been factored in any of this? And I think it's interesting, we have a bunch of Republican lawmakers here. The low-income heating assistance program, Senator May, your president, Trump, wants to abolish it. This year, 2025, he wanted zero. Next year, he wants zero. How many poor people will be harmed? Are any of our Republican friends going to get up here and say the truth, that the Trump administration attack on this program, which helps the least among us, is cruel and wrong? Has that been factored in any?
Well, I guess he's talking more about the president and the cut than he is the power rate increase. Why wasn't he talking about that? Why ain't he talking about the just the request in itself? I understand that prices are going up. Prices are going up for everybody. But remember, what did I say? Affordability is not what matters to Angie Hatton. In her job. Her job. It doesn't matter what anybody says. It doesn't matter the affordability. It doesn't matter that it's hurting people. It's laws, her job, her scope, what she has to look at when she decides, not just her, all three of those board members. It doesn't matter. Affordability is not even in the question. It's not even in the conversation. Doesn't matter. She said it herself. These comments, these public comment meetings, they're not even obligated to have those. I think that they're having those. I think that they have those because if they didn't have them, imagine the rhetoric. Then imagine the anger. Then at least by providing an opportunity for the people to speak their minds, it dampens it down some. But when you find out that it doesn't matter what any of the comments say, it doesn't matter any of the logical reasons that they would be requesting a denial in this rate hike, that doesn't matter. The reasonable rate of return for the shareholders is what is her concern. That is what they have to concern themselves with. Not if you can buy groceries this month. Now, I realize that's a really hard pill to swallow. It's really hard for people to comprehend that. But that's the truth. I find it, I think that was more of a political show that we just saw from Ned there. Yeah, I know, guys. I'm sorry. I told him to turn it down. He was being too loud. But I think that was more of a political show. Why would you come there screaming about Trump and the cuts? I mean, I realize that that's a really big topic. It's a really big thing. But we're talking about Kentucky Power, who is requesting another rate hike. I just thought that that would be what he was yelling about. That was the first time I'd seen it. I didn't see it before. I saw it with you all. So I don't know. But anyway, Ned has a long public record of representing Eastern Kentucky clients. Now, I'm going to give him his credit, credit where credit's due. I don't much like his bedside manner, okay? But he does have a history of fighting utility rate increases. So did Angie Hatton, though, guys. So did Angie Hatton. And she said until she became a commissioner herself and realized how complicated it was, she ain't fighting it no more. But he has called out regulatory capture when he raises his voice in meetings. I don't think, I'd say it's frustration at the system. I don't down him for that one bit. I raise my voice out of frustration of the system as well. But when a woman tends to do it, we are called names. When a man, such as Pillersdorf's status, when he does it, he's fighting for a cause. When he gets involved, hearings tend to happen. Comments tend to be taken. Bella, come on. Stop. All right. Comments are taken and decisions still feel pre-decided. So to people who are watching, they're listening, but they're not hearing. And that disconnect makes folks furious. So the leadership problem, in my eyes, okay, this is the core issue. The anger isn't just about the bill amount. People are mad because meetings feel performative, right? It feels like it's just a performance. What's it, Matt? Because it is. Because nothing that any of our public comments, none of our public comments are going to change what they do. It's not going to affect their decisions. Questions get deflected. Officials cite process instead of pain. Monopoly utilities face no real competition. When leadership says this is just how it works, what people hear is you don't matter. That's how trust collapses. We matter. It's us versus them. We matter, but you don't. Monopoly plus poverty equals leverage. Here's the quiet truth that nobody likes to say out loud. In Eastern Kentucky, there is no meaningful power choice. The utility has a captive customer base. Regulators approve increases, and the poorest counties pay some of the highest effective burdens. That's not a free market. That's structural leverage. And when people feel trapped, anger is the only outlet left. So this is how perfectly this fits. Budget lines and bloodlines. This is textbook. Turn the lights off. then ask for the comments. When the poorest counties pay the highest price for power, that's not economics, that's policy. The key question: if the people are this angry, why does nothing change? If everybody's so mad, why doesn't anything get done? Well, that question alone is devastating and fair. Why does leadership refuse to listen? Because when they do, it only makes it worse. People can survive hardship. They've been doing it here in the mountains for generations. Well, what they can't survive is being dismissed. When leaders interrupt, talk down, hide behind procedural guidelines, or act annoyed by public anger, they turn a rape case into a legitimacy crisis. That's why voices get louder. That's why people yell. That's why meetings feel volatile. So one grounding truth for us.
Wait, who else is that least decent?
We're documenting what's already boiling. The climate is already boiling. Okay, we're just covering it. We're just talking about it. Anger is not irritation when bills rise, when you can't pay your power bill and wages don't, and power is monopolized. They created this system long ago. So I know that we say, oh, they've got a monopoly. They've got a monopoly. It was designed that way. Our leaders put it in that way. Sorry.
I'm going to cut back down.
Our leaders put it in that way. I don't know where my phone is, y'all. Whoever's calling me. It's not hysteria. That's accountability trying to breathe. We're trying. So the core premise, the engine of tonight's show, let me get back over here, are the power bills. That's what we're talking about tonight.
He just jumped.
Are the power bills. Money, budgets, small town government. How does it fit with big time government? Budgets. How do they browbeat each other with these budgets? There's two currencies. You've got money, the budget, and then you've also got loyalty, the bloodlines, the friendships, the favors, and the grudges. When leaders start fighting, the fallout rolls downhill. Employees, departments, and regular people like you and me, we get stuck in the crossfire, and budgets become the weapon of choice. Now, budget lines and bloodlines, there's a bigger pattern, right? There's a much bigger pattern. If you want to hide a mess in eastern Kentucky, you don't bury it in the woods. You bury it in the budget line item. Oh, yeah. Then you cut to the special meetings, the arguing, the lawyers snapping back and forth. Who wrote the budget? Hiring, firing, drama, threats like layoffs, and entire departments getting hit. We see all that going down in London, Kentucky, just a couple hours to the north. It's a hot mess there. From public reporting, London has had a continuing mayor city council feud where meetings get canceled or turned into political standoffs, and the state auditor launched a financial examination probe into city finances during Mayor Randall Weddle's tenure. Now, it was just a probe. He wasn't found guilty or anything. But that's an example of, just the leverage. Randall Weddle was also accused of giving way more campaign donations than he was supposed to our governor back. I don't know, Kentucky Lantern reported it. Great paper, great investigative reporting, great article. When the people at the top are in a power war, the budget turns into leverage. Approve my way or I veto, cancel, or block. So all these votes, all these boards, all these commissions, you don't give me what I want? Fine. The department that you love is going to be squeezed. And the public just hears, we might have to lay off the fire department, while the grown-ups argue about who's offended. So Stonewall Olympics is really what it is. Both sides seem to slow walk each other. Meetings get canceled, meetings called last minute, agendas weaponized, public records requests turning into a battlefield, delay over redaction, we don't have it, too broad, come and inspect it in person from 10 to 2 on Tuesday. Meanwhile, employees are stuck between bosses and politics. The power bill don't care who you voted for. Do you hear me? Power bill don't care. No, follow the money, honey. Follow the money. When somebody goes from giving speeches against rate hikes to signing orders that approve those hikes, what changed? Them, the facts, or the seat that they're sitting in? What changed? We can speak at the Kentucky Power's requested hike at the public hearing several years ago, but opposing that increase that they were asking for then. But now you get appointed to that same board that you were once opposing. Angie, she got appointed. Let's see, she was later appointed to the Kentucky Public Service Commission in March of 2023. She became the chair in August of 2024 and then was reappointed in 2025. So the official PSC, her official PSC biography page and the governor announcement is on the PSC page. In the Kentucky Power Rate case, 2023-00159, so that was one in 2023, the PSC issued an order that approved the rates while also denying Kentucky Power's proposed rates and trimming what the company wanted. So there was some things that they did deny, but the rate increase was still approved. The final order page shows it was entered January 19th, 2024, and signed by the commission, including the vice chairman signature, which Angie Hatton was the vice chair then, and she signed it. The PSC's own press release says that the typical residential bill impact under that order was 5.66%, much lower than the company's original request. So they say that they request a really high one. And then by the time the PSC kicks out things that they say are unreasonable, and then they keep the things that they say are reasonable. But so those three people are the ones who decide what is reasonable and what's unreasonable. It's only up to them. So it's their judgment, their personal judgment that depends on. Seems awful important, doesn't it, that they have good judgment? It references multiple public comment hearings, including Hazard, that case did. More recently, Hatton, as PSC chair, has publicly discussed how hard the Kentucky Power Territory is and acknowledged that rates are among the highest in the state. She acknowledged that right in the interview that we just watched. So in plain English translation, what does that mean? As a legislator, you can say, I oppose this all day long. As a regulator, you're stuck deciding what's allowed under the law and the record in the case, even if you hate the outcome. So she could personally hate the outcome, but it was her job to do, to produce that outcome. Right? Does the system protect people, or does it protect the process? Looks to me like it protects the process. So the Kentucky Power in Eastern Kentucky, what does the data show? Well, let's look and see what the data shows, shall we? Okay. So what does the data show? Well, Kentucky Power proposed a big rate increase. Kentucky Power has publicly stated that in a rate review filed with Kentucky Public Service Commission, it wants to raise residential electric rates by about 14.9%. So that's about 15%. And about 13 to 15% for businesses. That's an average bill bump of around $27, $28 per month per home, if approved. Average. So, Kentucky Power, even though utilities talk about infrastructure and weather risk, those kinds of increases hit families right where it hurts. Eastern Kentucky customers already pay some of the highest bills. Multiple analysis, including local op-eds and community organizational research, they all say that Eastern Kentucky, especially counties served by Kentucky Power like Leslie, Letcher, and Martin County, have high energy burden rates, much higher than the state average, sometimes more than twice as high. Unbelievable. Energy burden means the share of your income you spend on electricity. The higher it is, the harder people struggle. One analysis of a real customer accounts found residential rates up around 50% higher now than a decade ago. Unbelievable. 50% higher than 10 years ago. Small business rates are up 32 to 37%. Expensive demand charges, which are extra fees when your power use spikes, up 410%. And now another proposed hike would make it even harder. Mountain Association, that's where that little bit of information came from. That's not just numbers. It's families choosing between heat or groceries, medicine or lights, because the bills are so high relative to what folks earn, and incomes here are much lower than state and national averages. Energy costs hit way harder here than elsewhere. Kentucky Energy and Environmental, I think that one of the programs that a lot of people use here are like LHEAP. I've never used it personally, but several people that I know have. So anytime that they get like I think they have to have a cutoff notice. I think they have to have a shutoff notice by their power company or their gas company or whoever it is, whatever it is that they do their heat. So if they pay, if they're heating through electricity or if they heat through gas or whatever, I think they'll help them with their heating bills. And a lot of people use those services. The Appalachian region of Kentucky, including the core of Kentucky's power's service area, has a poverty rate far above the national average and household incomes well below state and national norms. How are they supposed to pay $1,000 a month for their power bill when they don't even get that on their fixed income? So many people get like $700 and some dollars, less than $800. Some get $900. Some get $1,200. Well, when you've got a $1,000 power bill, how are you supposed to pay the rest of your bills? What are you supposed to eat with? That means that power bills are at the same dollar amount. They take a bigger bite out of people's wallets here. This is what people at public meetings are seeing with their own eyes. I couldn't pay my power bill this month. Most of them. Community members at the Hazard PSC hearing, hopefully we'll see some video of that one. A monopoly means there's no alternative, right? So you don't have any other choice. You don't have any other option. Unlike some states where people can shop for electricity from different companies, Kentucky Power is the only option in most of Eastern Kentucky because no one else competes for customers here. The company doesn't face pressure to keep prices low the way that a supermarket might if there were 3 down the road. That's what people mean when they say we're captive because there's no choice. There's no alternative. When there's no choice, the only way customers can vote is by complaining at a PSC public comment hearing. calling legislators, or pushing advocacy groups. And that's exactly what's happening around Hazard and other places right now. People are coming together and they're making sure that their voices are heard. And there's more of us coming out and using our platforms to bring awareness to these reasonable costs. Bills can include surcharges that you might not expect. In addition to basic rates, customers have seen a securitized surcharge approved by the PSC that adds 6.37% to bills designed to pay off costs from things like storm damage and old plant retirements. But it stays on there for 20 years. 20 years. Did you know about that surcharge? That 20-year surcharge? Those kinds of surcharges mean even if the headline rate stays the same, the actual bill is going to go up anyway. In plain English, for us, think of it like this. You're poor compared to most of the country. You don't get to choose your power company. That company keeps asking for higher prices. Those requests go to an unelected board, not voters. When your average electric bill goes from $180 to maybe $210 or more, that's real money for real families. And because incomes here are so low, you feel that rate hike sooner and deeper than someplace wealthier. That's why anger at meetings isn't just political theater. It's people being hit where they live. Why does this even matter? Why this matters when a utility has a monopoly and no competition, and customers already pay a heavy percentage of their income for electricity. Rate hikes are not abstract, they're personal. Whether people are struggling to pay a current bill, seeing proposed hikes of 15%, watching surcharges stick for 20 years, they have very real financial pressure that feeds distrust and frustration at the PSC and local leadership who appear not to be stopping it. If so many people are upset, why isn't anything being done about it? The company says the increase is to cover higher costs of running the electric system. Well, okay. Let's see. Plain English, you all. So much of this stuff is really kind of difficult to even understand. So much of it is. It's complicated language, so people have a hard time understanding it. So let's see.
No.
So the company says this increase that they're requesting is to cover higher costs of running their electric system, invest in things like equipment upgrades. Well, we've seen in past research the kind of investments
Sorry.
that they make, whoever's making those decisions, they don't always make the best ones. So, but they invest in things like upgrades, better handle bad weather, make sure power stays reliable, Kentucky Power. They filed this rate review on August 29th. And if this is approved, the new rates could take effect in spring of 2026. So this is happening very fast. How the PSC review process works in plain English. So the PSC, we know that they are the state agency that approves or denies the charge or the changes for utility companies. And here's what happens. So the company files a case requesting a rate change. That's what Kentucky Power did. Okay. The PSC reviews it. They don't automatically approve every request. They ask questions, they examine the costs, and they listen, or they're supposed to. She said in that interview that they go over it with a fine-tooth comb. So then they must be very, very aware of everything in it. They have those public comment hearings. But like we learned, they're not obligated to have them, and nothing that's said at them has any impact in their decision, because the scope of what they have to decide has nothing to do with affordability. It has absolutely nothing to do with bad or good financial choices. Absolutely nothing. It's kind of like those audits, the state audits that we keep digging out for fiscal court, sheriff's office, the jail. Those audits, the scope of those audits is not to find any kind of missing money. It's not to find any kind of mismanagement. It's not to find any kind of misconduct. None whatsoever. So even if you are looking for details, you're not going to find them in an audit. The only thing that those audits tell you is if they have a good enough system in place to keep track of everything. But they don't look at what they're keeping track of. They only look at like the hardware. Do they have a system in place capable of tracking all this stuff? Do they have a system? And then, there's kind of like details of that system. Like one of the things that they keep hitting on year after year after year for our fiscal court is separation of duties. You've got the same person doing all these checks and balances, and that's not what it was set up to do. That's not how those are designed. You need to have more separation of duties. That's all that it said. And they're like, okay, well, we're doing the best we can. We'll do better next year. And so what? For the last five audits, they all say the same thing. They didn't do any better. They didn't change anything. They didn't improve that. So who's ever held accountable for it? Nobody. The PSC decides what's fair, but they're not deciding what's fair for us. It doesn't look like to me. It looks to me like they decide what's fair for the shareholders of Kentucky Power. They can approve, deny, or change the request. This is the decision that people like us have been speaking about. If the PSC approves the increase, the company can legally charge the higher rates. If they deny it, rates stay where they are. The PSC also sometimes modifies the request. There ain't nothing I can do about it, y'all. Sorry.
Out.
All right, so a typical bill could go up by $25 to $30 a month just from this change. Oh, I didn't go all the way up. I read too far down. All right, they'll approve it. There are public comment hearings. The PSD decides what's fair. Okay. If they approve it, then they can legally start charging the higher rates. If they deny it, rates stay where they are. The PSC also sometimes modifies the request, meaning they might approve some parts without others. Now, what approval means for people in southeastern Kentucky. Here's how a rate hike physically affects families and communities. Higher monthly bills for many residents. Typical bill could go up. Oh, we already read that. All right, more financial stress for people in eastern Kentucky. All right, guys, we've been on here 2.5 hours. I'm going to go ahead and close this one out. I'm sorry. We had a lot to talk about on this stuff. Sorry, y'all. Sometimes it happens. All right, guys. Got a dog out there barking. Kids are all playing games. And I'll fuss at him, trust me. All right. It's one of those nights. Live TV. Matthew. Luke. All right. Luke chapter 18, verse 27. And he said, the things which are impossible with men are possible with God. Hallelujah. Then Peter said, lo, we have left all and followed thee. And he said unto them, verily I say unto you, there is no man that hath left this house, that hath left house, or parents, or brethren, or wife, or children. All right. Sorry, y'all. Then Peter said, lo, we have left all and followed thee. And he hath said unto them, verily I say unto you, there is no man that hath left house, or parents, or brethren, or wife, or children, for the kingdom of God's sake, who shall not receive manifold more in this present time, and in the world to come, everlasting. Then he took unto him the 12, and he said unto them, Behold, we go up to Jerusalem, and all things that are written by the prophets concerning the Son of Man shall be accomplished. For he shall be delivered unto the Gentiles, and shall be mocked, and spitefully entreated, and spitted on. And they shall scourge him, and put him to death, and the third day he shall rise again. And they understood none of these things, and this saying was hid from them. Neither knew they the things which were spoken. And it came to pass that as he was come nigh unto Jericho, a certain man, blind man, sat by the wayside begging. And hearing the multitude pass by, he asked what it meant. And they told him that Jesus of Nazareth passeth by. And he cried, saying, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. And they which went before rebuked him, and that he should hold his peace. But he cried so much the more, Thou son of David, have mercy on me. And Jesus stood and commanded him to be brought unto him. And when he was come near, he asked him, saying, What wilt thou that I shall do unto thee? And he said, Lord, that I may receive my sight. And Jesus said unto him, Receive thy sight, thy faith has saved thee. And immediately he received his sight and followed him, glorifying God. And all the people, when they saw it, gave praise unto God. Praise the Lord. Thank you, Jesus, for another day being able to come together in your name, Lord. I just praise you today. I praise you, Jesus. I pray that you continue to keep your hand on us. I pray for healing. Every day I pray for healing. Spiritual healing is the most important, so we pray for the spiritual man of all of us. I pray that you forgive me for my sins, Lord. I fall on my face daily. I feel like the chief sinner. I'm no better than the thief on the cross. And I pray, Lord, I pray that you will remember me when you come into your kingdom. Hallelujah, Lord. I pray for all those who are struggling with loss tonight. We have a whole bunch who've lost loved ones and whose loved ones are going through hospice. And I just pray that you give them all comfort and peace. Help them to be able to feel your presence in their life, Lord. And just show us the right way. I'll keep praying. You open the door, Lord. You help me to walk through it. Take me to the other side, Jesus. And keep your hand of protection around about us. Keep a hedge of protection around about us. I love you, Lord. I pray that you go with us tonight and bring us back safely at the appointed time. We give you all praise, honor, and glory. In Jesus' name, in Jesus' name. All right, guys. Well, you have a great rest of your night, and we will see you all tomorrow. Turn that one off. And we will see you all tomorrow. Merry, Merry Christmas. Merry, Merry Christmas. Yes, y'all remember the, well, it's not even up there, is it? We have the QR code supposed to be up there. This QR code in the corner it goes to our Facebook. So make sure that you come follow us on Facebook. That's where all of the daily drama happens and just regular stuff. We have two. We have the Elizabeth Jones and then the Hillbilly Crime Facebook. So make sure that you're following both. Okay. And remember that we have a merch store. So if anybody wants to buy their loved ones some Hillbilly Crime merch, we've got it. So go to the merch store, and I think Crystal puts it in the live chat, but we've got it up in the links too, so you can find it there. But we will be here tomorrow. We're here every day. Make sure you don't miss us. All right, guys. Have a good day or night.
I'm not playing.
Peace out, Girl Scout.
Can't hide from hillbilly crime. You can't hide from hillbilly crime. You may not know that there's a crew in town. The head hillbillies are making their rounds. Small town whispers loud and clear. The sheriff shot the judge in his chambers chair.
Sheriff got a secret he won't keep. Judge shot dead in his disbelief. A lot of people have some stories to tell. Dark pass away, get the sound of a shotgun shell.
All the secrets spill on down. Voices loud in this old town. From the courthouse to the ground. Rumors fly and they can't be bound.
Neighbors hide behind their blinds. Whisper tales of troubled minds. Skeletons covering the mountainside. A treacherous reality in the pines.
Winter reveals the hidden lies. Moonlight couldn't mask the cries. Shadows caught in sunlit skies. There's no cover, no disguise. All the secrets spill